Yeah, all of the, yeah.
After about 3 hours of driving.
As they come in, I've been getting them printed off, the only thing I don't have is the last.
Well, I don't know if we
Maybe
can
the
do it tomorrow,
Of everything else in the package.
You did it next week, and then I know that Paige sent you a thing about.
That's what I
Don't
was
amend the previous minutes too much, then
We can at least get them.
Oh, I know what this means. So this is 20 inches deep on the seat.
Well, and, you might have
Here.
anything else
So
from
this one
expeditions.
It's 26 inches.
Would hurt to do a little bit of money. Corrections and get one in the city hall. So the city will still absorb those, still use them.
We'll get them fixed up.
Oh, I have one upstairs.
use your cell phone, Mike. I've got an app, you just
I'm
like.
gonna go grab it.
See how accurate this thing is.
It's actually, they look just about the same as these shirts.
Look like they'll hold up though, longevity wise. Had these ones for 30 years, I guess the next ones need to last.
These things were uncomfortable
I like
30
those.
I'm gonna agree to whatever Billy wants.
These have been
I'll be like,
I think these have been replaced once in the last couple of years. I seem to remember getting new chairs one time in the last 20 years. So they're not quite 30 years.
Yeah, we did get new chairs. I
Someone
remember
actually
that.
was gonna, use
At
them for
some
rental
point.
too, like take them to some event.
But it was
They
the
thought
same
they were
thing,
better
everybody
than
was
the round
snorkeling about the old ones.
yeah.
I know they'd be much better than those, white hard plastic ones, that's that, those are not fun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't sit in them, so I don't really know.
So I did the nice thing this morning, told my kid he doesn't need to drive to school to Coak because the roads are icy, you know, and stayed back from Copper Harbor, so I wasn't getting home too late for the council meeting. And I ran a little bit late talking to the operation manager in the office at about 7:20, so I'm like, oh, I gotta go get my kid from Craig, get him a ride to Coak. And I come out of the driveway at the AT&T shop and I go directly across the road into the ditch on the other side because Mary Jackson was just one sheet of ice. But it was like, I was doing like 5 miles an hour, so it was like slow motion. So I called schools, my kid's gonna be a little bit late, hopefully you guys can excuse him because I gotta get my truck out of the ditch before I go get him. It was like, but it was a good one for the kid because I was like, hey, even I go in the ditch every once in a while.
I think you were the only one that slid off the road here today.
No, the school bus was in the ditch, it was, yeah.
Really?
I saw
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Mary Jackson was like, it got, once daylight hit and it warmed up, it was just a sheet of ice. It was, yeah. So I was out there throwing ice melt on the road. Candace jumped in his big Dodge and just pulled me right out. It came out just as easy as it went in, so it was one of those. That was a tough one. I know. I just got done watching too. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I was yelling at the TV.
So it was during the girls' game.
I didn't get to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why?
He's gonna go have a text in from tomorrow on his week, the 8th of December, when we were going to catch him, doing this video conference with the developer. And I finally told her on the second, I said, hey, it's been 3 months, it's not getting any better, because he can't straighten it. It's about to here, and he's still trying to swim. And I said, my fear is that he's doing more damage than good, but she's encouraging him to swim. So we'll probably go and sit there next week.
Did he have some kind of terror or something?
She said he took.
All right, I guess so, huh?
Yeah, as far as I know, everybody should be here tonight, but you've got a quorum at 6:30, so we got to start.
I wasn't sure if Hannah was in regionals or not. I wasn't sure if she actually went to Sitka or.
I know she was traveling Wednesday, but she hadn't said anything about not being here tonight.
I think she's headed to Anchorage tomorrow.
Okay, well, then you got the staff here. It's a little slippery and wet outside, so I guess we'll call this meeting to order at 6:32. Take a roll call.
Mike Fitch.
Here.
Kelly Schoonover.
Here.
Sean McKinley. Here. Josh Bennett.
Here.
Sean Thomas. Hannah Bassinet.
All right. I guess we'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving to reports from city officials.
Here.
Oh, hearing from public, yes, absolutely. I guess being not going to public here, I guess hearing from the public. Anybody on the phone, on the line? YouTube, Zoom? Wow.
Just kind of as public, I'd like to remind people that, there's been another lawsuit filed against Harvest of King Salmon by this entity in Washington. And public comments in support of maintaining, a fishery are due by March 11th. And if anybody is interested in commenting and they want to make it very easy, they can go to salmonstate.org, which is supporting the fishery. And they basically have an available, a pre-wrote out letter. You can write your name and stuff into it. You can, if you want to add comments, you certainly are welcome to. But anyways, it's very easy to do. It is important to try to get as much support and awareness of this as possible to no one, so that we get support we need to maintain our fisheries. Anyways, that's what I'd like to share publicly.
Absolutely. And everybody was presented with a letter from Mr. Whitehead about the 201 and SB 171, requesting a letter of support for those actions. He mentioned that it looks like 201 is probably going to die due to conflicts, but we could get another, yes, sir.
We followed up with an email with a number of resolutions, and so I asked Sam to kind of keep an eye on it. If the council's interested, we can bring a resolution back to the council March 21st for consideration.
That'd be great. Yeah, get a resolution and then, yes. And then there was also another resolution that Clinton had brought up about the catch can become a rule subsistent, getting something written from the council that I'd like to maybe get that on the next agenda as well, so we can get that out there for the subsistence. If there is, then I guess I'll look into it. Mike?
I think during a subsistence meeting that was over in Kawak here about 10 days ago, that was discussed a little bit, and I think that there's a little bit of time here. It's not like we gotta have it done immediately, but there's also no reason not to do it if we know what we want to do.
Yeah, and the council, I believe, we submitted a letter of support for, in the first meeting, but if we want to do it a little more appropriately or through more
And just to be clear, the council's opinion as expressed before has been to oppose
Yes, yes,
Ketchikan's request to be considered.
yes, yeah. Absolutely.
I guess I'd just add, that, you know, as long as we're talking about resolutions, it would not be a bad idea for the city to do a resolution. I think we do, you know, on the previous litigation, but with the new one, we can, you know, we do our own resolution. I'm sure we have unanimous support for that in the community. And the same state deal or the, you know, the litigation over King Salmon.
Yeah, I mentioned it. Yeah, I mentioned it. All right. No more hearing from the public. We'll move on to reports from city officials. I've just been listening to a lot of people in the community comments. One positive thing was I talked to a couple of guys about getting a new couple $1 million into a new turf baseball field, track and field type combination, and they're going to put a budget together and a proposal, put it on Stedman's desk, hopefully for the next year or so of actually getting funds of maybe redoing the ball field. Right now we're looking up at the high school baseball field. Somebody put that on my plate just to get start communicating with them, and it actually went really positive that they are the ones who are in charge of doing all this to Petersburg, Sitka, Ketchikan, and so that was pretty cool. After talking to them, just sending them, Kevin McDonald gave me the information to reach out to the guys, and it went actually really well. If we could find a multi-use, which would work out perfect right now up at the high school, then we could be looking at maybe getting funds to redo the ball field up there. And then we had a discussion about the daycare this week, and still in the application process of getting approved care facility. So we're hoping to still be on track in August opening, hopefully. Anybody have any questions for me? I'm here. All right. Chief Ely.
I submitted a report. I would add that Officer Parsons got released medically, so he will be back full duty and he'll start FPO training next week. Other than that, staying way too busy for this time of year.
I asked my nephew in Ketchikan, "Are you guys strangely busy this time of year?" He's like, "Yes, we are. We haven't slowed down." It's like, so you guys aren't the only ones. So I figured I'd go out of order because Hannah mentioned that we always go in a certain order up here. So I thought.
Unfortunately, I mean, you know, it's an increase in the narcotics. Believe it or not, cocaine's making a big push coming back. I don't know if it's any better than the other drugs, but people don't OD on coke as much as they do fentanyl or the heroin. So I guess it's kind of a toss-up. It's all bad for you, but. Be happy to answer any questions.
Is Ernie going to be able to relieve a lot of clocks issues? Is that what he stated that?
Well, I mean, talking with Chief White, having somebody to help him out 2 weeks versus nobody is better than nothing, because they still have one officer in the academy, and so he's running solo. But you guys have help for 2 weeks, and then troopers are also helping them. Plus, we always provide backup whenever they have certain type of calls. And it's a trial process that Coop's doing as far as 2 on, 2 off. I know we entertained it a little bit. Brian and I, we met on it when we were kind of, there's just 2 of us, the 3 of us. I mean, there's pros and cons, but for me personally, I think that somebody should live in the community that they're going to be working in. They're going to be more vested than somebody that just comes here to just work for 2 weeks, leave for 2 weeks. I don't think they're going to be as invested in the community as somebody who actually lives here.
I agree. I've already met Ernie. So Yeah.
Did you get in trouble?
No, he was wondering why someone was parked in the road, and this is Alaska, everyone's parked in the road.
Just checking.
No.
No, that's all right. When I went and visited the facility up at the cop shop, Chief asked me, have you ever seen the inside of the cells? I think he's being polite, asked if I've ever been arrested before. No, I actually have not seen the inside of the cells. But, I've heard about them. But, all right. We'll go to Stephanie.
I've submitted a written report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I mentioned that Josh could start looking for workers from the library, because I see how many people are coming in and out of the library all the time, that they're doing an excellent job up there. It's seems like there's people going there evenings all the time. So. Any questions for Stephanie? All right, Oliver, put on one of your many hats.
I submitted a written report. If anybody has any questions. I wish I could say something different. We all can thing here, but
Nope, it's all good. Written report, you guys are busy.
I do have two questions. Are you guys looking at diesel or propane for the police station?
Electric.
yeah, electric mini splits
Oh, okay.
would be probably police station's an old building,
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of capacity for much electricity. The mini splits run on a 15 amp circuit. So we have not made a decision on that. The chief's, can't call it a grant, his capital.
Legislative appropriations through capital projects to the jail. So it's not a grant. And I thought it was 62,000, but it's like 60,259.95, something like that.
$61,000 we have to spend by July, and so we are going to make sure that we don't squander that and put a plan together, order materials, get the money spent, and figure out how to do it on a short timeline.
Perfect. And the second is a multi-department question, but you're gonna be doing the grunt of the work.
Sure.
Where are we at on the cemetery expansion? It's like 3 departments.
Cemetery expansion, I can tell you not a lot other than just reminded me our columbarium showed up today.
Nice.
Big granite columbarium, so we'll be setting that tomorrow. And so that'll be, if anybody's been out there, we put some gravel down, we poured a couple of concrete pads, did a little bit of landscaping, probably touch it back up when the flowers start growing and the birds start chirping and the sun starts shining. But beyond that, I've submitted a request for some money for the capital budget to do a little expansion.
Thank you.
So just out of curiosity, Mr. Mayor, when you talked about electric heat, I'm going to change because our electricity is so expensive.
Sure.
And anymore, they make almost everything pretty compact. So I don't know if you have the time to weigh the difference out between the cost of electricity or propane or diesel.
Traditionally, electricity goes up a lot less and is a lot less volatile than fossil fuels. In a small area, it can be a very cost-effective way to heat. If you're heating a gym, electricity would not be your first choice. But in a small area, and the advantage of the mini splits, again, we haven't made that decision. We may very well, when I first heard about our funds, it was posed to me that a certain amount of it was for heating and a certain amount of it was for expansion. It's been my understanding lately that we can use it we kind of use the whole thing however we want. But with expansion, you have to have some way to heat it. The nice thing about the mini splits is for the limited amount of time that we have in the summer, they do cool. And again, they're very efficient. They run off of a 15 amp breaker. A worm drive skill saw can break a 15 amp breaker, click it off. So pretty effective way, to heat a small area. They don't take up any room. They're dry. So we have done a little bit of homework, but we haven't made that decision yet.
As long as the electricity's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as- But that's anything, that Toyo needs electricity, your propane heaters need electricity, they're all basically based, unless we're putting in a wood stove.
Geothermal's a good way to, it's a good investment.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I just have one comment, we're getting into the spring, freezing thaws are gonna be less likely happening here in the next month or so. We could start coming up with a game plan on how to remediate down there by the web loft where some of that work is taking place, in the grassy area. Of course, it's still snow on the ground and still, so it's gonna make a bigger mess at this point in time, but we can start coming together with a type of a game plan to get that remediated. Would be nice to start kind of looking at and getting kind of ideas on easy fixes on down there. But yeah, no, I guess toilets came up in the talk of the daycare facility. You guys successful on getting those little toddler toilets repaired? Or?
No, I don't have a good answer for that. We, in case anybody didn't know, we were down a guy in the facilities.
Yeah.
And so, he was kind of handling that. We're trying to get to the bottom of, I believe some material was ordered to fix those, but we're working on that.
Yep.
We rounded up 2 miniature toilets today. So, they were a gift from, an anonymous donor. So, we got 2 of them today, but, really again with the daycare, I fully anticipate once the user and the operator get through their process, there'll be another punch list at the end and facilities is here to handle it when it comes up. So
Nope, absolutely, sounds like you got at least
we're
over
pretty much
90.
knocked out.
Yeah,
I would
over
say
90 days.
85-90% of the concerns so far, but there'll be more and we'll be there to fix them.
No, perfect. No, appreciate everything you guys are doing on the facility. It was, a question, toilets came up. It's pretty hot topic.
I know it is. I know it is.
But no, it seems like this next process is still away from a 90-day waiting period. So you got plenty of time to finish punch list down there. But no, thank you, Oliver.
If you guys were gonna move on, unless you had other questions about my other departments, the only thing I would like to add is that we've procured the financing for the SCADA system and for the wastewater treatment roof. It's in Brian's computer to sign the loan documents to fund those. So that was a big deal for our departments to get those done. Concurrently, the SCADA bid solicitation went out. When you deal with EPA, there's a lot of moving parts and they add a lot of layers to the bid process. So that we sent out a notice of award today to the lowest responsive bidder, who's the guy that we really like, which is RMC Engineering out of Juneau, who works in our plant and has for 20 years. And so we did that today. So we are set to keep that rolling. So what will happen is we will bring a contract to put in front of the council on the March 21st meeting. Would any of the council members have any objection to me getting that material coming? So I guess another way to pose that is, I'm fairly certain we've talked about this and the council will sign the contract when it comes in to hire this guy. But in the interim, I'd like to get the material coming, the VFDs and the PLCs and all of the long lead time items. Would anybody have any objection to me kicking him off on that prior to the contract being signed on the 21st?
No, I would love to see that stuff purchased as soon as possible. And I've experience with RMC and Blake, and those guys are amazing. So,
sure.
But definitely whoever does the work, they're going to need all the exact same material. So getting that stuff coming is going to be our next biggest hurdle. If there's no objections from the council, I think it'd be a great idea and great step on moving forward.
Okay. So is that a yes? Just to be, I want to make sure I'm not stepping out of line.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Recreation.
I submitted a report. Does anyone have any questions?
Do you have very many volunteers?
We would love more.
you know, we actually been getting a few more, so that's been really helpful. We've been actually, our numbers are really increasing, a lot more kids and also adults are participating in different things. And so, we're definitely trying to work on that, but, you know, we're slowly starting to do that. And, you know, we obviously know we need to do background checks and other things, so we've also been making sure that we do our due diligence before we have people come in and volunteer.
So is there a max, like, say, for instance, the after school, I'm assuming, is done up on the hill? Is there a max? I know when, what's her name was here, she had a max because she always didn't have a helper.
Uh-huh.
And I've heard kids talking, you know, about how many kids are up there and there's only one adult.
Uh-huh. But we did have some volunteers that have been coming in and going out, and some of the numbers are kind of fluctuating when we're actually putting on a big event, more and more coming. So we are really looking at that. I know Ellie had challenges with that too. She said when it was getting to 35, it was insane. You know, we were hitting about 12 to 15, but now we're getting to 25 again. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're trying to get more people involved in helping.
I'm thankful for the program. It keeps our kids off the street. Thank you.
I did mention to Ellie when she was still here, but if you put out sign-up sheets out at the high school, a lot of seniors are trying to get volunteer hours, so they probably will sign up to help with the after-school program.
Okay, that would be great.
All right. How about you, Hans? How you doing?
All right, Mr. Mayor, if able to get a report submitted in time. The department's been pretty busy, and we also had a flu go through the department, so that has affected some of our projects and work this month, but we did get quite a bit done. We wrapped up the ice house. Wyatt Refrigeration came, installed a new compressor, and installed a new evaporator. Tongass Electric helped us with the electrical work on that. The technician did a good job. Samantha is helping me with a RFP, putting an RFP together for the pile replacement. We have a piling that broke off down here at City Float, and then there's a piling that was broken by a fishing vessel at the ice house. And so we're putting together an RFP. The Army Corps permit to replace those pilings should be done here real soon. I think it's 45-day lead time, and it should be done pretty soon. We had a water leak in North Cove. It took quite a bit of diving to find it, and then finally we just were able to hear it. We got that fixed today, but that was leaking. That was a pretty good leak. We just received, it's still at AML, needs to be picked up, but all the treated lumber for the boardwalk project. I have some travel planned the last part of the month here, starting next week, and so I don't foresee that project starting this month. I think we'll start next month on it, but now we have all of the framing lumber and then all of the decking and handrail material for it. Brownell sent us, we ordered 2 new wheels and tires for the haul out trailer, and they're like a custom made wheel, and they're a custom made tire. They're like a tire that's designed for mining machinery, and they're foam filled. We installed 1 new tire, and then when we went to go install the next one, we realized they had sent us the wrong one with the wrong wheel pattern. And so we've done some talking with them, and new one's on the way, and we're gonna send the wrong one back to them. We've installed an air compressor, a shop air compressor, along with all the airlines out there at our shop at False Island. And then also I've been assisting the fire chief with the high pressure air compressor here at the fire hall, in the process of rebuilding the the third stage cylinder head. And then also rebuilding we gotta put new valves on all the tanks, all the Cascade tanks, all the valves were bad on them. Just helping them with that. So, happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Questions for Ron? Thank you. How's Kimberly going?
Good.
Yes, you've been busy. Seen all those numbers. I said the other day, you must be just dreaming of numbers at night, chasing you through your dreams.
Yep, for the next couple months. Yeah, so I submitted a written report. I just would like to add, on my staff report on number 5, I had stated, at the time that I submitted this, that it looked like I was going to be going to Utah, roughly around the week of May 13th for training for a new software. I actually got a hold of, one of their employees that I've been in communication with, and she has given me a rough, schedule of what we're looking like. It looks like, I'll actually be going sooner. Probably April 15th through the 19th. And on top of that, for those that volunteered to be on the budget committee, I did provide you guys copies of the budget and the white binders. I did just want to notate that it does contain individual wage information, so it is confidential, so if you just treat it as such. On the top of those, inside the clear folder, there is a schedule outlined that Brian and I worked through. If you guys can kind of look that over and let me know if that schedule is going to work for you guys. I assumed that the 5 o'clock time for meetings was going to be consistent. But if anybody has any objections or if you guys want to see any changes, then let me know.
As of right now, I can't confirm the 25th.
Okay.
So everything works. Time's okay.
Okay. And then lastly is the chairs. I put copies of new chairs for all of you to look at. This is just like one selection that I looked at that looked sufficient, good enough. But if you guys have any objections or want to see something different, just let me know. But if you guys do like those and approve, I'm happy to get those ordered and get those coming. So.
Kimber, you said that you're probably going to Utah in April now. Will you be here for the audit then, or will you be gone?
No, I'll be here.
Okay.
So originally the schedule that I had, they had scheduled for me to go during that week of the audit, which is actually the following week. So I suggested that we push it a week prior to what was originally scheduled, so that way I can go up, do training, come back, do the audit. I understand it's a lot of work, but luckily fiscal year 22's audit stuff, Sherry was here and she actually did a lot of the preparation work. And I've been in contact with Altman Rogers, and they've sent me like lists of things that they'd like to see while they're here. So me and my staff have been pulling that information, so I don't think there's gonna be a lot of, digging around when they come here. We'll be pretty prepared, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
You're killing it. Mary.
I submitted in your report and be happy to answer any questions.
Just as a point of interest, Mr. Mayor, our packets are put together according to this, so we're having to fumble through to find each.
Oh,
report.
all right.
So,
Yes, okay, I read, not a problem, I read them all for the meeting, so next time I'll follow
I
the,
did too, but I also
Yeah.
highlighted my.
Yeah. which Mary's doing such a good job, she provided me with all of them separately this last thing, because I'm always requesting paper copies all the time before the meeting, so I can keep up on all the correspondence, being busy and reading a lot of the stuff at home, so I was like walking with my folder like, hey, I got them all individually, this paper clips, this is nice, so, yes, next time we're gonna go in order, yeah. Well, I told myself a while back when Chief was doing, 7/12, or 12, 7 days a week, 12-hour days. I was like, I'd probably get him off the first. Then I started thinking, Oliver's driving to Hollis, so it was like, and then Tana's comment, I was just like, we'll mix it up a little bit. But All right, thank you, Mary. You did an excellent job. Sam, how are you doing?
All right. I submitted a written report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think most of you know I have submitted my resignation. I'll be putting that a little later in the packet, so thank you for your time here. I'll have one more meeting for my end date on March 28th.
No, you've been great. You've been a pleasure. Very valuable. I told you it'd be hard shoes to fill, and of course, wish you the best on your next endeavor, and appreciate the offer to help out as needed. So, yes, thank you for everything. Sam, it's gonna be hard shoes to fill.
Mr. Mayor, I did have a couple questions. Thanks for your time, and I was hoping that you would stick it out. But I do have a couple questions on the Demet replatting. Is that gonna go west to east or north to south? Is the high density gonna be on the road side?
Oh, I see. So it's a big project they've got going on, and it's a bit of an unusual one. The basic is they're looking to do a project that requires an office. The entire lot is high density residential. Offices that are not home offices are not permitted on high density residential. Somebody has to be living in the building for it to qualify as a home office. This will not be the case. So 6,000 square foot piece of property on the let's see, it's the northeast edge of the property, if you my directions, against the highway, will be changed from high density residential to commercial property for that office space. And that rezoning will be coming to the city council. The applicant did ask that it got bumped to April, so I'll get all of that ready for review. And I'll have those documents ready for the April meeting.
And the plat matches that rezoning, Josh, so it's this, a strip next to the highway that's
Next
a
to the
separate
next to the
lot
big
now,
company.
Yes.
Adjacent to the highway, so along the highway frontage of the lot, there's a narrow lot created for the commercial area.
Well, it's
Right.
not really a narrow lot, it's kind of a square, so they just took the minimum size, 6,000 square feet.
If it gets replotted into A to 2, A1 to A2.
Right, that'll be the
Yeah,
big plat,
it's
so
like a
the main
second
plat
plat.
will be A1, and then the smaller plat that'll be rezoned is A2. And you'll see maps submitted with that rezoning information.
Perfect, thank you.
You see him? Do we have fire EMS on the phone?
She couldn't get out of the driveway this morning. Are you on, Vanessa?
Yes, I am. I planned on being there, but the roads are totally not in my favor. I submitted a written report. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to ask them.
No, thank you for everything you do on my end. That's what I have any questions. And yeah, the roads were horrific. I told my kid I wasn't gonna let him drive to school today, so I went to leave the AT&T shop and I ended up on the ditch on the other side of the road. And I was thinking of you when I see your email, so I was glad that you decided to work from home today. So,
Yeah, the roads are not good at all.
Anybody have any questions for Vanessa?
Yeah, just good to see us finally back to ALS service.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Not a problem.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. Mr. Brian.
Last but not least, submitted a written report, a couple items I just want to flag for the council. First is a reminder that.
You are the last party in the conference.
The first one is item 3 in the report, just a reminder that we're meeting with the school board next Wednesday night at 6 o'clock here. this is not the normal annual meeting with the school board where they present a budget to us to review. This is an opportunity for them to talk about their budget shortfalls and funding issues, kind of leading up to our regular annual joint meeting. So they told us that they may supply a draft budget, but they're not at the point of having a final budget yet. So just a reminder that that meeting is next week. And if I can piggyback on Kimber's discussion. So the budget process, I want to do a little bit different this year. We've got some new council members, and there's been a lot of questions about budget issues and spending over the last few months. Normally, we would work to bring a balanced budget to the budget committee at the first budget committee meeting. So we would normally we would get input from the departments, and then we would go back to the departments when we had to cut, and we would figure out cuts and then bring a balanced budget to the budget committee. I think it would be helpful for the council members that are on the budget committee to have some input to see what the original budget looks like after the department head meetings, and to have some input on cutting requests, cutting other services, raising revenues, right? Whatever it would take to get to a balanced budget. So that being said, there's a memo, a couple of memos on the top of your budget binders. One is just kind of briefly talking about the process that I've laid out for the 4 budget meetings. The first budget meeting will be to go over the operations and maintenance budgets and get some direction on how to get those balanced. And the second meeting will be to kind of review the balanced budget or continue that discussion. The third budget meeting is primarily to discuss the school contribution process, right, which is a kind of a complicated process. It's semi-related to our budget, and to also go through the capital requests. Again, I'll be bringing all of the department capital requests, which is would require a higher draw from the capital reserves than we usually do. So again, the budget committee will be able to provide some input about priorities and about where the committee might be comfortable with withdrawal from the capital reserve in order to do those things. And then the fourth meeting on the 25th will be essentially final discussion and adoption of the draft budget to go to the council. So I would ask, and then second memo is a little bit longer and is a detailed review of the O&M budget with a little bit of discussion, or the O&M budget both on the general fund and the enterprise fund side, and it kind of spells out most of the numbers. So you'll be able to look through the documents in the budget document to see where we're at in relation to a balanced budget on both sides. But there's more information in the memo here, so if you want to read through that, I would encourage budget committee members. I know it's not a great way to spend a weekend, but it's definitely in everyone's interest to come prepared to the budget committee meeting for the discussion, rather than starting from scratch at 5 o'clock. We'll be here late. And so anyway, I'll leave that to you. If you have questions, if you get looking at it and have questions, please feel free to reach out to Kimber or myself. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a comment in regards to lifeguards, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the pay scale is too low. I mean, we've had some pretty nice lifeguards, and some of them have moved on. But I think in order to keep that place staffed, we're gonna have to have some kind of incentive to keep them there.
And the new aquatic center director has some thoughts on staffing. She should be in place by the end of the month. And so we'll see what her ideas are. One of her budget requests for this year was to budget for the maximum amount of pay allowed for lifeguards, which is a double-edged sword. It gives them freedom to increase the pay to hopefully incentivize lifeguards. But at the same time, the budget committee Monday will be talking about how to cut from the budget. And so those higher wages in the budget certainly create, it's a $20,000 or $30,000 item to increase what we've been paying to what the maximum is over all of the lifeguard positions. So there are a lot of discussions going on. Mandy has some thoughts about how to fill some of the lifeguard positions. I think there's a lot of reasons for not being able to replace lifeguards. And not all of them are simply pay. In fact, the most common has to do with either being able to swim a full lap or being able to pass a drug test. And that's been a challenge. That's been the biggest challenge. Those have been the two biggest challenges, getting the lifeguard positions filled. So we have good candidates that can't pass a drug test, or we have clean candidates who aren't strong swimmers.
Brian, when Mindy gets here, are we gonna start hearing a report from her, or does that still fall under recreation?
It'll still fall under recreation.
I just have a comment. I gotta apologize. Next week, I'm gonna be in Anchorage for state basketball tournament. So I won't be here for the meeting. I'll try calling over the phone and listen in and give any, if there are additional heads up, just in case she wants to run the meeting. For the school, I've been looking forward to being in this meeting, but I'll be attending from the Alaska Airlines Arena in Anchorage.
It'll be an informal workshop.
Yes.
And because this is not our normal joint workshop, it largely is going to be driven. I really plan, or I think the best plan is to give the school district the lead to run the meeting. It's they're the ones who asked for it, and they're the ones who are asking to share some information related to their budget issues. So I think that's easy enough to handle.
Perfect. I just figured everybody heads up before I'm not here next week. I'll be returning on Sunday, but I'll be leaving on Tuesday. So.
Wow, Brian, you don't have confidence in me?
I do. And if the meeting goes south, I expect you to pick it up and run it.
I remember the last joint meeting, and we pretty much ran the meeting, so it was like, so, no. Any more comments, or?
My comment to our department heads is that, you know, we as the council really appreciate all of the hard work that you all put in to make our city look good. So we just need to give you some attaboys every now and then, because I know you seem to run into challenges because of weather or whatever. And Samantha, we wish you the very best. I know you'll do well wherever you go. Thank you.
All right, moving on to reading the correspondence. ISO PPC correspondence. Motion to open up for discussion.
Happy to answer any questions about it. It's a fairly straightforward process. The ISO 5 is, the good news is we can expect for the ISO rating. We're a long way from being an ISO 4, so ISO 5 is really the best category, and it's a good category for communities our size, departments our size.
Really detailed, informative.
It is a process. It is a challenging process.
Yes.
Luckily, we only have to do it every 18 to 24 months.
Moving on to unfinished business.
Mr. Mayor, consideration of resolution amendments. There's a consideration of resolutions and ordinances.
Oh. There it is. On this one, okay. Consideration resolution ordinance, yes. Motion to, for discussion of resolution 24.04, amending the city personnel rules.
approve resolution 24-04, amending the Craig personnel rules to include the city administrator evaluation process.
Second.
All right, open for discussion. I guess I suggest we keep the verbiage that was in there written like it states basically in the contract, the evaluation of the city administrator. Without that, we may have to look at amending the contract. So I was just gonna throw that out there for suggestion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So, I was the one that, kind of brought this up. I guess I wasn't, I didn't probably express myself clear enough. My intent was not necessarily that we had to amend it, to affect the agreement we presently have with our administrator. My thought process was that we need to get something more comprehensive than what we have, even within this. I'm not opposed to this, but my view is long-term, we need to have quite a bit more comprehensive process of evaluation that, we can follow consistently and yearly. To nobody's fault, the city as a whole didn't do that for a long time consistently, now we're trying to move into that phase. We were provided a really good handbook for evaluation of administrators. I would like to certainly rely on that to some degree. And, some things like collectively, the council would do, consider the evaluation. And then, it's the mayor's prerogative to summarize and put into a report. It's in here, but it's not as comprehensive as I had intended. And so my suggestion, my perspective is we don't change anything as it is because we don't want to change the contract. That's not fair to the administrator. We can take a little bit longer time and look at doing, look at developing a much more comprehensive process. And then when the next contract is up, it can be entered into the contract and into our personnel handbooks and such.
If it would be helpful, I did find, I don't remember, City of Valdez maybe, some other community, I was looking for that kind of process. I figured this discussion might take place. And if the council wants to read through this real quick, I think this meets what you're looking for, Mike, or sounds like it does. And I would be amenable to amending my employment agreement to this language. So if this is what you're looking for, it would be a process for the council to amend the contract, but I'm amenable to amending the contract to read this language and inserting this language in the personnel handbook if this is the direction that you were thinking about.
It is the direction, although I'm not gonna read this right now and make a decision right now, but the concept, yes, I agree with it. I just want to have time to, fully consider this, look at the handbook that we were provided with. And, that, like I said, this isn't something that we have to do immediately. Over the course of, maybe every other meeting, or like once a month, every other meeting, we could have this on the agenda, slowly work at putting something together that, we all fits our perspectives and our interests. And then, put it up for adoption with your, it's great that you're willing to consider this and we can amend it into your contract as long as it's amenable. That had not been, I wasn't, suggesting we pull anything or change anything in your contract. I'm still looking for the kind of a long-term guidelines in our handbook that, kind of makes it very clear how this happens in the future. So we aren't kind of jumping around, which we have done in the last couple of years.
So you'd like staff to put this discussion on the agenda every other meeting or so until the council settles on language?
is that, I'm looking for guidance too from my fellow councilman.
I agree with you. I think it should be completely set and fluid when we go into the evaluation. It shouldn't be, we need to pick this valuation form and then, you know.
Right.
And even, it's not even fair for the current manager.
No.
You know, because when we were not all here, you know, if we were able to fill out an evaluation form and not everyone had to be present, but I would want everyone to be present. But definitely don't want to take away from your contractor.
No,
I think
I agree with council that there were a number of difficulties or issues with the evaluation. I don't think it went particularly smoothly process-wise as much as anything. What I passed out as an example is a pretty clear-cut method. I think that something like that would be a great move, a great policy for the council to set, that spells out things like what you're saying, is that one person takes responsibility for distributing and collecting forms. The council gets an opportunity to meet prior to the evaluation to come to a consensus. Whoever is selected as the chairman or the mayor of the evaluation committee is responsible for writing a single evaluation form based on that consensus. And then, and only after all that happens, the actual evaluation happens. And that's consistent with the way that we really handle most of our employee evaluations. It's the same way. We give the employees a copy of their evaluation. We sit down and do the evaluation in person after they've had a chance to look it over, and then give them a chance to comment. This just takes it into the more difficult environment of having 7 or 8 evaluators all together trying to come to a consensus. So yeah, however the council wants to do it. If you want us to put this on the agenda every couple of months for you to talk about, or every couple of meetings for you to talk about, we're happy to do that.
Why don't we, I have a suggestion, why don't we just table this so that we can read through it, and then it's gonna be on the next meeting, and then we know if we need to work on it further, or if it will be more of a shorter process than an elongated one.
I would suggest then, since there's a motion on the floor, the proper process would be for someone to make a motion to postpone this item until whatever meeting date. If you want to do it the next meeting, we can
I
do it
just
then.
make a quick comment before we make a motion. This is all great with creating a process on interviewing staff and administrators. I feel under the contract, there's no verbiage on how to do it, so it's on us to create how we do it, but it does open up in the contract of, how we have been, council, mayor, everything. So the process could be a little set aside separately than the contract that you have of just on processes of how to do evaluations of administrators. So, but no, I appreciate everybody's time. That's all I'd say.
Move to postpone until next council meeting.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on to unfinished business. I just had a request. I just looked at the agenda earlier this week, and I seen that we have a new business item for Small Boat Harbor Town meeting. And then we have on unfinished business, Craig Small Harbor discussion. I wasn't sure if it was appropriate to move with the council's approval to move the Small Boat Harbor discussion down with the Small Harbor Town Hall meeting or not. Just be able to have that discussion at the same time, if that's okay with the council. Okay. All right, we'll move that Craig Small Harbor unfinished business down to
Item 5.
down to item 5. Thank you. Motion on the CTA MOU, Craig and CTA MOU. Okay, motion for discussion.
Move to approve the MO MOU between the City of Craig and the Craig Tribal Association.
Second.
And so with this, there's been some verbiage added in there that, where, the CTA would like to be removed. This is still under negotiations in between us, right? That, I believe that was still added on into the.
It's still in language.
It's still in the language, so you'll have a letter from the CTA requesting to, remove some language in it. So knowing that this is an MOU in between us and the CTA, I figured it'd be beneficial for us to look at that and talk about that language, and if we're good with, removing it from it, then we can amend the MOU and move on without that language on the MOU, and then present it to the CTA, with the council's permission. Have any comments on the MOU or the request of removing the terms of taxes and agreements for pay in lieu of taxes, if any, was the request to be removed from the MOU, from the Craig Tribal Association?
Yeah, my belief or my feeling is, the memo, or the MOU should stand as it is. There's provisions in the MOU that provide for differences of opinion. So if we don't agree, that's fine. That's part of the agreement, is that we will see things differently occasionally. But to take any issue off the table is, changes the balance of negotiation and working together between two entities. And so personally, I prefer the MOU just stay as it is.
And that's under section C, part A of the MOU. Now, this MOU is just around understanding that we will work collaboratively together on projects. So it's just, nothing is binding legally to stuff is in, not, in these guidelines. So I'm looking for the council's direction on this. And of course, we'll be presenting this to the CTA and then we'll coming back to us. So if,
Again, if the council would like to, if there's no motion to take the language out and the council would like to postpone the item again until the next meeting, I'll communicate with Justin and Clinton that the council's not inclined to remove that language. Then they can respond if you want to do that before you adopt before you make a final vote on adoption of the memorandum. Or the council can adopt your choice.
a motion to either approve or as written, or we can make a motion to amend.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, my only concern is I don't wanna see it go back and forth. I don't know if we should have a sit-down meeting and just hash it out rather than keep going back and forth. Just a thought.
Yeah. I'm hoping to have a sit down with Clinton here in the near future. I was looking to make it happen before I take off anchors next week, and this was one of the items I was going to discuss as well as a few others. So if we would like to put this off till the next meeting, then we can, because I think it's really important for us to work together on this MOU and come together in terms that we both agree on. If there's, make sure there's no misunderstandings. Sometimes there's interpretations to words that are kind of misinterpreted. So yeah, with the council's approval, make a motion to put this on the next agenda.
Move to table MOU till next agenda.
Do I have a second?
Let's see if they're ready to vote.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just to be clear, what is the council's direction for between now and the next meeting? Do I just send this comment back to the CTA? Mr. Mayor, do you want to meet with Clinton directly? Does the council want me to try and set up a meeting? How would you like us to proceed before the next meeting?
The whole goal here is to get an MOU that everybody feels basically good about, and just want to open it up for discussion. I feel like it would have been a good idea for us to sit down and write this together with the CTA kind of in a meeting, but knowing that we want to get this process. So I mean, it could go both ways with just a discussion of seeing the negotiation of taking it off or leaving it on and seeing, I mean, it's on the MOU, but it's not legally binding to saying that, you know, we're gonna charge taxes or you know, or withhold, or it's just something that, you know, on both parties is on the MOU. Like however the council wants to move forward on, you know, so if there's any direction, Mike said he'd like to leave the verbiage in there.
Where I'm seeing it is I want to know why they want to take that. I would like to hear why they want it out of there.
Yes.
So
It's a pretty standard MOU.
Yeah.
And it says if any, in regards to taxes at the end, it says,
Yeah.
and that would be, to me, a negotiation time.
Yes.
I'm open again to count. I don't think it's a problem either way. I'm just trying to get a feel for what it is the council would like. So I guess a couple of options would be that we can put it back on the agenda for the March 21st meeting and ask Clinton and or Justna to be here to talk about it. We can set up a special meeting to meet with the tribe. You can appoint a couple of council members and the mayor to meet individually, again, being aware of the Open Meetings Act. Whatever method you want to use, I'm just looking for some direction from the council.
I wouldn't be opposed to just the mayor meeting with Clint and just asking why, and coming back and reporting it. Or if you feel like he wants to say more, then have him come to the meeting and continue from there, just so that there's some open communication, so that I don't think that we're just ignoring the situation.
Absolutely. Yes, and I want them to feel like their voices are being heard in the MOU process as well. So I think I'm more than happy to reach out to Clinton and discuss the reasoning and it's all good, so.
That's the action we'll take, and we'll bring it back on March 21st.
Perfect. All right, thank you guys. Moving on to new business. Motion to discuss parliamentary procedures, meeting, training, and discussions.
There's
Just open.
There's several
There's-
options
yes.
here, so this might be a good opportunity to make a little discussion before an option is picked, rather than
Or any
randomly
options,
picking
yes.
one off the list and starting off with a motion.
Well, Mr. Mayor, as tonight's proceedings have gone, we are in dire need of a little bit of education with tabling and pushing agendas out into the next. There's a lot of information here.
Yes, and as you read it and you think you understand it, you'll get to the next page and you're gonna realize that it's even, I've been reading them for the last few months, and it is very, very common for councils and to get a little bit of,
These are two separate items, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the first one is just to do with if the council would like to have some parliamentary procedure, meeting, training, and how you want to proceed with it. And that's just this memo. The council policies and procedures, there are a bunch of examples there, but that's a separate discussion item.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would hope that we can get some training. That's what my conversation was, in hopes that we can get a little bit more available to us.
I guess, how would we like to move forward with that? Would we like to facilitate somebody to come down and do a training with us? Would we like to, sit there with Brian? I guess that was part of the question.
Yeah.
That was on there in the discussion. So I'm open to everything. I learn something every day in the meetings, as well as every time I read the book. As soon as you think you have an understanding of it, you read the next paragraph and then you're in.
This might go hand in hand. I know that like the MOU with the tribe, and I know our local corporation, they do bring other parties in for training also for their boards. And if that, I don't know, we want to reach out and see if they have anything going on in the near future, we can piggyback and maybe split the costs, or.
I can certainly ask.
Yeah, because I think maybe there's other entities that want to come in here and learn more procedure.
Even suggest maybe like a Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot through somebody through Zoom and save a lot of cost on having somebody come down.
I think that's an excellent idea to reach out. I would go so far as to reach to other communities in the island. And maybe do this, if we found enough interest, maybe actually do this somewhat through a contact type meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good suggestion.
I know that we offer flights up to Anchorage for the AML convention to new people, and they have training like that up there. I think that if we wanted to go that big, we could, but I know that our city clerk is well staffed in the Roberts Rule, and just even having us go through and just like a refresher of the Roberts Rule would probably be really beneficial as well. Just something simple and easy and quick to do instead of having to go through a big training at the moment, because we do offer it.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if we could also include the planning commission group in the same training.
Oh, absolutely.
I think any of our public entities would benefit from this.
Yes.
Harbor, all of them.
So again, just looking for clear direction, because I've heard a couple of suggestions. Would you like us to reach out and find an instructor who can come to the island or conduct Zoom meetings? Would you like the clerk to do it? I've heard both of those.
If we can, I don't know how you guys feel, but if we can chain email other boards throughout our island and see if anyone's bringing anybody in that we can piggyback, or if someone's already set up even a Zoom that we can also piggyback. I believe that if someone's coming, if someone's coming, then that's gonna make it a lot better for us. I am not opposed to Zoom at all. I just want all the boards in our area to get educated.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and but my suggestion on that would be if there isn't anybody that's gonna be coming to the island to facilitate everybody that we could benefit in the whole, then I would probably suggest that we reach out individually with our Craig facility at a Zoom, doing multiple Zooms with multiple different people. Those could get really long, but if we do like a Zoom ourselves as Craig planning committee and the council through Zoom, it may be more beneficial in this type of facility that we have to do the Zoom meeting in. But if we can bring somebody and facilitate a meeting, then we can get a whole quorum up there and we can actually go through live scenarios like they do at AML, which is really beneficial on those, seeing how those meetings are actually ran. I learned a lot, and you definitely learn a lot from the attorneys up there and the other people who are well seasoned at it. So I'm at the mercy of you guys. However you guys want to move forward. Kind of sounds like we'd like to put out an email to the rest of the facilities in the island to see if they have anybody coming, and then I think it's a great idea of just us individually having a meeting, going through the Robertson rules, starting out with as well.
Yeah, because I do know that those AML conventions, workshops and training are 2 days of committing yourself to there. So it would be a big thing, and I mean, that's a big ballroom area, but if we are including other entities, I see it going to where people would have to commit to at least 1 full day or maybe 2 part days or something. But that's good questions to ask when you're reaching out.
That might be an idea, Brian. I'm not sure I'm good at this, but we may even be able to reach out to AML and see if they may have somebody who may want to facilitate a meeting down here.
Well, there's a number of sources.
Yeah,
reach out to. I mean, we could have, maybe I could reach out to the clerks, the State Clerks Association.
Yeah.
Probably has people that can, AML, Forker Group. There's a number of agencies that could. It's just they're, again, I think that, and I talked about it in the memo a little bit, that's one of the things that would have to be, the council would have to be ready to commit to is if we bring someone in or schedule someone to do a compressed Zoom series, we're probably looking at least 2 half days in a row. And so that would be a time commitment. Doing it internally, we could do it, half hour at a time before council meetings over several months or something. But we can, there's a number of places that we can ask for this kind of training. I'm sure there will be various costs involved.
And let's just say we go down that route and we're the only entity that's interested, we could possibly reach out to the other organizations that have boards and see if they want to carry some of the cost burden.
We can always ask.
That's what I was thinking is, if we inquire, hey, is anybody else doing this? I'm gonna guess probably not.
Yeah.
So then would they be interested in participating in something like this with us and then do a bit of a shared process on this? It still is a little bit, how will it work, but I think to start down that road and inquire and I think it would be good for us, it's healthy for us, and I think there might be interest from some of the other communities. I would hope there would be, so maybe just an inquiry to begin with, and learn more about what could happen.
All right.
Good?
Well, sure.
Sure.
It's a little bit up in the air,
Clear as chocolate milk, but we'll ask a bunch of questions and see what we get. How's that?
So, yeah. I don't think there's any motion to be made at this point in time. We'll move forward.
We'll ask a bunch of questions and bring a bunch of information back, and the council can have this discussion again at the next meeting.
Maybe we can do it at the VOTEC Center. Bring the high school kids in on it. They can learn a little bit of parliamentary procedures, so, yeah. All right, moving on to council meeting and procedures.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, I know there has been several hot topics in this facility over the years, and in our last hearing from the public, I don't know if we want to see if we can put in some bylaws to show recognition and then award recognition, and then that there's not so much, I don't know. I don't know. There's certain things that I like to see, like even from the Pledge of Allegiance to someone who wants to stand and say their name first, or their address, I just know that without certain, this piggybacks the last one, that we're gonna be here for hours on some hot topics, with it just being open forum.
Yeah, we try to state our name. I mentioned to a few people last time, please state your name. They stopped saying their name once they spoke several times. It could be, simple as some of the roles, like you're, mentioning if you spoke once, we'll listen to somebody else who speaks. My experience with town hall meetings like this, that people are really adamant about, be prepared to listen to public comments, and it's, there's going to be a lot of passion involved. I hate to cut people off in meetings, during public comment period. After long public comment periods, tend not to open it back up for discussion again. If there's any concerns of, discussion about situations of persuading council members' votes or something like that, then that's a different, discussion note. I feel with meeting that last time, we just had a lot of people passionate about an objective that was going on in the community, and just, being respectful, listening to everybody's public comment. But I do see your concerns, and I do understand meetings do run long at times. But yes, definitely setting some guidelines out there for us would help. That way, just like any other public notice that you give to the community, so they understand that we're not cutting them off. This is how the procedure is going to go for us.
I know that it probably won't solve all the problems, but I know that having a podium will help with our mic issue with people not hearing in the back. If even our department's head walks up to a podium, I know that we don't have a big space, but even a music stand with a mic on it would be helpful. And then someone has to come up, and then you don't have people trying to interject while somebody has the podium. Might be a little bit more and an easy fix without having to go through a million handbooks at the moment.
And I did hear back from the public. They said the mics work great unless we're shuffling our papers. And then they said as soon as anybody touches their papers, they get lost and they can't hear what anybody's saying. But besides that, they said they can hear everybody from all parts of the room as long as we're not touching anything. but that was one of the comments. But like I said, I'm the new guy. I'm willing to open up for anything the council would like to see. A lot of this stuff is what the council have relayed to the administrator on how I'd like to move forward in the future. So this is all stuff that's coming from you guys. So however you guys would like to see it move forward, I am game. So.
I think with a little bit more Robert's rules knowledge and possibly the podium would fix a lot of our public meeting problems that we see.
I guess,
easier fixes
and I guess before we get into these big meetings where we know we're gonna have a lot of public comment, I guess before the meeting starts, I guess if the council would like to just be like, hey, let's cut it down to 2 minutes of public comment period and only speaking, then that's something we can tell the public, at the beginning of the meeting that we're gonna, due to time restraints and everything, we, maybe keep somebody only speaking once and you know, down to 2 minutes or something, that would help, you know, and that's, you know, common practice at some other places. When we're talking about, sensitive items, I don't like, being the one to object and just start cutting people off, so I'll sit here and listen to the community, opinions and voices on some of the stuff, so maybe partly my fault, but, like I said, I'm willing to move forward with, and I'd like, you brought up a great point, Robertson Rules is gonna help us with this first item is gonna help us with the second item as well.
Yeah.
So.
It's easier to train us than train the community.
Yes.
How to do public meetings.
Yes, well, it's up to us to set the guidelines for the community, and so that's, you know, that's kind of just the way it is. When I was in Kisan, I told the tribal council, it's not my job to tell the elders no. If they want 5 cords of firewood, I'm bringing them 5 cords of firewood. If they need 2 rides to town, I give them 2 rides to town. So on certain parts in the community, when we talk about critical stuff, I'm going to listen to the community, but there is always respecting everybody else's time frames, and how many times people talk is definitely a good item to discuss. So. I guess there's really no action, right?
Well, I'm just kind of asking what action. I'm again hearing multiple different directions from the council without clear direction. So there's been some comments that a podium and the Roberts Rules of Training should fix most of the problems. I heard at least one comment about this kind of a policy document being a good idea. What is the council's direction? Would you like to see a draft of a policy document similar to these examples, or do you think that that's unnecessary at this time?
I think it's unnecessary at this time. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
The only, and Brian already touched on it, and so did the mayor. When we have a hot topic and there's a lot of people here, it's up to the mayor to say, you know, have a process, that everyone is aware of the process, how much time they have to speak, because we could be here all night. And it's not, you know, some people are really long-winded, or they like to hear themselves talk, but I think there needs to be a process when we have a full house. So everyone understands, it's made clear by the mayor. You know, this is the process we're going to follow.
And that would be beneficial for me to have before the meetings
So,
you know, yeah.
Again, the question, is it for the mayor to make up at the meeting, or is a document like this ahead of time the council's preference?
I would say a document so we have it on hand and not having to go through this again.
Yeah, I guess when we look into a document on how public meetings to adopt public comments, I think that was the biggest, you know, one of the hot topics from whoever put this on the agenda. You know, so the meetings don't run long, or.
The problem I see with that is that if we do set a 2-minute limit in every meeting, but say it's like a really short meeting and somebody just wanted to talk extra and we're like, okay, this isn't bad, this is good information. And then somebody else hears or reads in the meeting that this person talked for longer, and then that's gonna be a problem. And so I think it would be best if we were like, if the mayor stood up before a big hot topic meeting and being like, so we're not here all night, we are gonna limit comments to 2 minutes tonight, because we see a lot of, I think people would understand that. But if we put a rule in place, then it's there to be questioned. And when we're not following it. So I think, again, the podium is a great idea.
Mr. Mayor. I can see both sides of it. I actually have for a long time, and I've been coming to meetings for a long time here in one capacity or another. I have really appreciated the fact that the city of Craig has a pretty open forum here and recognizes people and, you know, lets people speak. Even after we get past public comment, if we're, you know, talking about an issue, you know, people quite often would raise their hand, they can weigh in. For the most part, that doesn't become overwhelming and it doesn't, you know, lengthen the meeting substantially. And I feel really strongly about, you know, public input and public process and people having the ability to do that. And I think the issue is when we do see the one or two times, you know, a year, whatever the case may be, where we see that one of these, you know, a meeting may go on and there's, you know, well, maybe some emotion and stuff, then it's okay with Robert's Rules of Order to set a ground rule, you know, for this meeting because of so many people. I mean, Anchorage has actually went through this quite a bit in the last couple of years over a couple of issues. They'll say at the beginning of a meeting, this is how much time is going to be allotted for each individual. And I just feel, I hate to see us go away from having a more of an open public process because about 95% of the time that serves us very well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the process last time, somebody would comment and somebody would have a rebuttal comment and somebody, so I mean, even, you know, having people do a comment and, you know, basically wait for everybody to have, who wants to comment first before somebody else comments 2 or 3 times. We even do that in some of the other meetings we had, the subsistence board meeting, out of respect, let people who have not had their chance to comment. Like I'm here for the public, so the public comments and what they put out to me and the council is beneficial. And I know that with those passionate, hot topics, it may get, you know, a little dicey, a little long-winded, but yeah, I'm more than willing to do better next meeting and stand up and just see what's out on the floor and, you know, mention to people that, you know, we're going to have time restraints if that's what the council would like to do. I have no issues with that. I could do that before a meeting, knowing that it's going to take a lot of place without putting in, you know, you could pretty much tell what our meetings are going to be when we get here, unless we have a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of people calling in, you know, then that's unforeseen. But yeah.
Can I put more thing? I think some very basic protocols would help, as we've all kind of suggested. I do have one pet peeve that has happened a couple times at our meetings, and it just frustrates me. People start talking over each other. That's really impolite. It's really inconsiderate, and you know when that happens, that's what that thing is for.
Point of order. Yeah. Yeah. I'm supposed to do it that thing again. So, yeah.
So that, Mr. Mayor, we'll come up with some sort of podium and leave it to you to set rules for full meetings.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That's direction.
Yep. Yeah. See if I still got tires when I get out of the meeting. That's on YouTube. All good. All good. Okay. Motion to open subject discussion on department heads attendance at city council meetings. I guess my thought on this is make a motion or just open for discussion. It was on the list. I feel like with all the technology that we have today and under the, you know, ways we can communicate, and there's always something out there that could be happening, you know, sicknesses and stuff like that. I think there is, you know, it's important, you know, to attend meetings, but maybe not be, you know, make it a requirement to be in person in the meetings. I feel like department heads, yeah.
friend, do department heads have a certain amount of absences they can be from the council meetings? Kind of like the
There's no
council
set
members?
limit. Yeah, no.
Because I know that in our policy, the council members can only miss 2 meetings, but that's with no,
Unexcused.
unexcused. Correct. So maybe if we put something like that in for the department heads, they could only miss so many with not having an excuse, because obviously there's, can't get out of my driveway, I'm about here, landslides, other things that could happen, sickness, but at least then we would know if a department head is gonna be attending the meeting or if they're gonna be absent, kind of like we do with our council members.
Yeah, I guess maybe I read it wrong. I was thinking attending the meetings in person.
That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, and so that was my question. I mean, attending the meeting, one way or another on a platform. And I do know when we hire department heads, you know, one of the things that's on the interview process is, you know, you're gonna be able to attend meetings and on these flexible times, and everybody, you know, says yes. So I'm just basically looking for.
Mr. Mayor. So I will say, partly to answer your question, Chanel, that right now, of course, the policy is that the department heads regularly let me know if they're not going to be in attendance for whatever the reason might be, right? I've had employees who, when there were COVID outbreaks, worried about, they were caretakers for elders and preferred to attend by telephone rather than in person because they were worried about COVID. Employees that, you know, have to drive from out of town in bad weather. So it's been my policy to work with the department heads when they ask to call in and not be in person. I'm generally inclined to let them. They usually give me, I think, is a good reason. And while it does happen that there are unexcused absences, I would say the vast majority of the times that the department heads are not in attendance at all. They've arranged that with me ahead of time. And almost always when they're on the phone, they've arranged that with me ahead of time. It would be my preference personally to continue to make that decision as their supervisor and manager. But this item is in response to council comments that I wanted the council to, if the council wants to see different, to clearly give me direction otherwise.
Mr. Mayor, I feel that overall, we've had a real good turnout with our department heads.
Always.
And, you know, we appreciate that. We don't always have questions, but when we do, it's always nice to be able to look at them and, you know, to hear their response. I was actually surprised to see it on the agenda.
I was waiting for council comment on the emails when the agenda got sent out. This was all stuff that is basically was requested by the council that's on the new business. So from one person or another. So I weighed in on a few items that were taken off the agenda during the email chains. But
and I will say that my intent for putting it on was I was hearing individual council members during meetings comment differently, right?
Right.
And so in order for staff to effectively respond to the council, we need clear direction from the council. And so hearing over and over in meetings again, some council members feeling that this was now the expectation and didn't understand why people weren't in attendance, and, you know, comments about problems with the telephone. The reason that I put it on that was because I'm hearing those comments and looking for clear direction from the council. Either to keep going the way we've been going, which is what my preference would be, or if the council has different direction, to give clear direction to staff.
I'm okay with how it is.
Okay.
yeah, and as the agenda starts going out during the week, it'd be really beneficial if anybody wants to weigh in before it makes it to the agenda. If you think that it may be something that you don't feel like it should be on the agenda, then everybody could weigh in make sure it's not on the agenda.
Be careful about that, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, because you can't weigh in.
Well, not
The
on,
open meetings
yeah,
that council
yeah,
members
yeah,
can't weigh in.
you can't weigh in, you're absolutely
They
right. Well,
object,
yes,
and
yes.
then I have to decide whether or
Yes.
not a individual objection
Well,
is enough to take something
if you-
off the agenda, right? That's why.
Not as a council in a whole, but if you feel like you were the one who put this on the agenda and you feel like this was not your understanding of wanting it on the agenda, and you got a hold of you, not the whole council in the whole, because of the Open Meetings Act, and you were like, well, this was not my intent to have this on the agenda, or this could be detrimental to have it on the agenda, without having further discussion with everybody in public, then that would be, appropriate to do for, if you feel like maybe you were the one who put it on the agenda, or maybe the reason that's why it was on the agenda.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good,
So,
we're good.
okay,
we're
so
good.
moving on
I
to,
can do that.
all right, moving on to Small Harbor, Town Hall meeting. Mike, open for discussion?
I think it's worthy, it's worthy to do. The only thing I can say is, I'm not sure I'm gonna be here April 10th. I have a couple things going on in early to mid-April that are still up in the air, so I'm not committed to when I may or may not be here. I would be here 17th or 18th of April. I could be gone as long as that from March 18th.
Okay, we can look at a May date.
It's unanticipated, but it's the way it is.
I'll have Mary look at dates in May and availability of a larger forum again. But as the memo says, I'm still looking for council direction, that the council wants to conduct a town hall meeting.
That's why I moved the Small Harbor boat discussion, because there's been talk about, if we want to move forward with discussing the harbor anymore or not, and and have that on our agendas anymore, moving on with the town hall meeting. And under new business would be the first time we've had discussions of a smaller harbor, according to what was presented in the document, and having a town hall meeting for people to weigh in. I don't know what the council's direction on that would like to be, as well as how we would like to move on a harbor period, I guess. I felt if we discussed it in new business and we tabled the harbor discussion, then it would kill basically the new business of the small harbor town meeting. So I figured I would leave that up to the council's discretion on. We'd like to have a town hall meeting and sit down with the public and discuss a potential small harbor situation. And if we do, pick a date.
Yeah, I think it's something we need to do. There's, as we went through this process, perspectives were from nothing to, what we had. There were some people who felt comfortable with both. And I think by not, the council as a whole, not, listening to all perspectives, because we kept going in one direction, that created some issues in this community. And I still think we do need a new harbor here. I'd like to see one. I don't think it's a question of whether we want one, it's the scale of what we want. To me, that's the question, and trying to find that balance. So, if we can do this sometime in late April or May, if, the rest of the council is concurrent with that, I think it's appropriate.
I think that's a good idea too. I'd like to hear what people have to say nowadays about the harbor project, just because it was started almost 18 years ago.
I agree.
So we have a first and a second. We can have a vote on it.
Move to direct staff to set up a town hall meeting to take public comments regarding a future small boat harbor in Craig.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. With that, I guess the fifth item on discussion is basically obsolete. We can move forward with the discussion on the harbor.
I still would like some direction on it.
You still like the direction on how we'd like to move forward on the harbor, I guess,
If the direction is to wait until after the town hall meeting, that's fine too.
yeah, that would be pervious to the community, of listening to the community's comments on how they would like to move forward on the harbor. I think if we weren't gonna be, we wouldn't be having a town hall meeting at that point in time, Mike.
Is there anything, are you anticipating being requested of, city decisions from the Corps or from the delegation in short term?
Well, I don't know what the term is. We're talking about Congress, so we're talking about,
That'll be a long
it may be long-term or it may come up suddenly. There's a couple of issues right now. The biggest one being the Water Resources Development Act reauthorization, which is scheduled for some time in 2024. And if we were to ask the Corps to pay the entire cost of a new study or a general reevaluation report, language would have to be included in that bill. That bill is generally only reauthorized every 5 or 6 years. And the expectation is that it will be reauthorized in 2024. And I don't know whether that's next month or end of the year. So we would have to, part of what I'm looking for here is guidance about whether or not we continue to encourage the federal delegation to work on the tasks that they're working on. Senator Sullivan has staff currently working on inserting language into the water bill. And so right now, the default decision is that we are having the congressional delegation move forward with the Corps doing a general reevaluation report. And I don't know what the timing is on that, to be honest. But that's an ongoing request for Senator Sullivan's office. So I think there's little risk to putting it off till May, but I don't know.
So even with what you just said, you've shared with us, that's just to move a process of evaluation along. That still wouldn't, that process is not going to be part of a community determining, well, the next one needs to be here or there or wherever.
That process won't be. So assuming that we don't change course, right? Assuming that we continue to ask the delegation to take this action with the Corps of Engineers, the time frame would still be, assuming that it gets in a water bill, Congress directs the Corps to pay 100% of the cost, probably another year before it works through the Corps system into their work plan. So 2025, they would have to get the funds appropriated. Now we're 2026, 2027. The feasibility study, which is where they start with, where do you want it? What do you want for the scope of the project? Would be a 3-year process. So we're looking at 2030 before they finish that study. And then we start talking about design and construction. So, I mean, that's the timeline of the project, regardless of the town hall meeting or local comment, right? The Corps is not prepared to take comment yet, and they won't be until, 1, they're directed to do the project, and 2, they get the federal funding, $3 million or so that's required for them to do the study, and then they start the study. And that's probably 2 years out before that happens, at best.
So basically what you're saying is, at this point, we're just being asked, do we have some interest in continuing to pursue funding for a harbor study?
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, personally. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's the direction we're looking for is, again, there's been some uncertainty or unclear comments. I think some assumptions that we're not doing this anymore, and I want to get clear direction. It's a good opportunity to get clear direction from the council. Either we continue working with the Corps of Engineers or with the federal delegation on this Corps study, or we don't.
I mean, we already pay a lobbyist to be out there, and we're just asking to put wording in there so that the Army Corps of Engineers has to pay 100% of the report, because we couldn't use the first one because it was bad. So
Right.
I don't see any downfall in this or it having any effect on what people say about the small harbor project, because it's probably not even in the same spot.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, we're talking a month or two process, which is already going on. I feel like I can't really, make a decision on yay or nay on the harbor until I hear from the community. But I mean, this process has already been ongoing. This is already amongst Congress. They're not stopping on this process.
Not unless
Not unless we ask. And so I feel like it is important for us to have the discussion with the community, the other entities, to seek, basically and work collaboratively together, if we do decide we want to harbor, because I've heard, both sides of, the community and, for or against. And, I'd like to get a clear direction from the community and what they would like to see before we either table it completely. So I guess the sooner we can have a town hall meeting and reach out to the other entities and see what kind of a footprint and where or how, when we can do something, it would be the best way to move forward.
Mr. Mayor. So there's no motion on the floor. So if the council just chooses to take no action, staff will continue working on the process like we have been, which is to encourage the federal delegation to require the Corps to pay 100% of the general reevaluation report.
No objections.
No action.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, council.
Moving on, big one, planner duties, workload, looking for direction from the council on how to move forward in the future with a lot of the ongoing grants, so on and so forth.
Mr. Mayor, just looking over this position is huge.
It is, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes when I look at this, I think we went over this during salary, it's almost, the pressure would be relieved if there was a grant writer, either on staff or subcontracted out. The planner in itself, just doing their own meetings, the zoning, the building and zoning permits, it's like two positions here.
Probably.
Yeah, honestly, and when you look at this, it's, there's a lot going on.
Well, we are in the budget process, so if your suggestion Monday would be to add a new position, we can certainly talk about that.
And I think this goes, if you did add a new position, then you could open up the door to what I was asking about earlier in the year, or last year, is more stuff that the planner end of it could do, outside of this building. Just checking on what's out there that's not even getting a permit. But I think in the short term, I don't know what you guys think, that we need someone to write our grants.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the people who are successful at getting the grant money are the ones that utilize the same person who's getting the grant funding for everybody else. It's hard to hire one grant writer and say, like, you're gonna write all the grants, but you are successful going to the USDA, other entities who are giving out the money. Safety, I mean, it was all over the place, and it was like, this person is charging everybody to write the grant, and everybody is successful basically in getting these grants. They just need to apply for them. And there is always usually a set amount for them to write that grant. So I'm looking at the grants that we may be looking for, may be able to assist in, what a grant writer would cost to, look into who's writing the other grants for those entities, for those projects, and, be beneficial for us to utilize some of the same grant writers, so you're not reinventing the wheel.
Brian, if we did appropriate $10,000 for a temporary grant administrator writer, would that just be only writing grants for the planner, or would they be working throughout the city?
Right now, at that level, the goal would be just for someone to pick up the current grants that the planner is either working on or or in the process of applying for. That the $10,000 would not get us someone who would have the time to do more than simply take care of what's already on Samantha's plate.
$10,000 will cover us until we can hire somebody else, maybe. I don't know how far the $10,000 is gonna get us on all of the grants. It's like,
It depends on the scope. We
Yes.
can hire someone, we can appropriate $10,000 and say, go to all the departments and write grants for them, and it'll last about a week. Or we can say, we need you to pick up the planners' grant processes and make sure that they continue to move forward, and hopefully have enough to do that until a new planner is on board and up to speed.
So the 10,000 is more so for, so many grants to write, not hourly or salary based.
I don't know how we would, I'm not sure how we would use the $10,000. Likely, we would pay an hourly wage to a temporary employee, or we would hire, the two methods would be to hire an employee, a temporary employee at an hourly wage, and then direct them what grants to work on, or to contract with someone to complete a certain number of grants or a certain variety of grants for a lump sum. And my inclination was to hire an employee, a temporary employee, that we would be able to direct their work more closely.
So how many grants are we talking about right now?
So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 4 CDS grants, the ECWA grant, EMPG, SHSP,
The EPA.
That's one of the 4 CDS grants. So at least 7. And they're in various stages. Some of them, applications are finished and turned in. Some of them are already approved grants and they're just being administered. Right, the purchases and certain. Some of them we're still waiting for the money to go from Congress to an agency to a grant, and for us to get invited to apply for the grant, right? Because that's the process for the congressionally directed spending request. Senator Murkowski puts in appropriation, we get $3 million for a water system. The bill gets passed, it goes to the EPA. The EPA finds a grant that's applicable, and then they finally invite us to apply for the grant. It's not competitive, but we still have to go through that process. And all the grants that Sam's managing now, some of them, she's currently buying equipment like the air compressor cascade system. Others, we're waiting for Congress to move the money to an agency. Others, like the EPA grant, she's actively writing that grant with the EPA.
Move to appropriate up to $10,000 from the city general funds and direct staff to hire a temporary grant administrator / grant writer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Roll call.
No.
Roll call, yes. Roll call vote, please, Mary.
Mike Tibich,
Yes.
Lily Schoonover,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Josh Bennett.
Yes.
I'd just like to add that the more crucial grants that we have are the ones that we've already got funding for, because, dealing with a lot of grants, keeping track of all that money and doing it appropriately. So, I don't see this $10,000 going very far before we're up here again, but this is a good step forward and shows everything you've been doing, plus some. Samantha, thank you so much.
And Mr. Mayor, there is a second motion, second item to discuss there related to cannery property development. So.
Yes. Discussion on how to move forward on the cannery property planning and zoning plat authorization. Well, we were doing a lot of that stuff in-house, and now looking at wanting to move forward without that we would be spending up to $100,000 and
I think 50,000 would get us through the process that we presented to this council and planning commission on February 8th.
Okay.
We bid it out, so I can't guarantee that dollar amount would be what we get bids for, but based on my experience, I think that we could get through to that part of the project, which is just to get a final concept design for the development. That doesn't include any of the utility design or subdivision work or anything after that.
I just had a comment. I thought that there's a whole series of meetings for the upland developments, and without having some sort of outline for upland developments, would this just be a little too early?
Well, I think that we are in a position to talk about access and overall layout of the property and to develop a conceptual plan. Now, there's no reason we couldn't do that. That was the intent with the series of meetings that the council and the planning commission approved on February 8th, right, was to get to that same place. The only difference now is we don't have the staff bandwidth to do those meetings without a planner. And so that process that we talked about on February 8th will either have to go away or be delayed indefinitely, or we'll have to hire that out. And this is not an uncommon process for design firms to go through. And I'm good whichever way the council wants to go. We can indefinitely delay the upland development planning process until we have a new planner to do it in-house, or we can hire it out. But I think with the scope of the project, it's unlikely that we have the staff bandwidth to do the work that we laid out on February 8th.
So has the job been posted?
Yes.
I don't remember offhand the salary. It's just, if we put out $50,000 out and then we recoup someone in that position, then within the next month, then we're out a lot more.
Yes, but I will tell you, it will take someone a lot more than, if we hire somebody so the salary range, I think it's 52 to 86, depending on experience for the position. Even an experienced planner, if we hire them next month, they're still going to be 4 or 5 months out before they're ready to. You guys have seen the public meetings. That is a complicated, and there's a lot of opinions about that development. Sherilyn will testify to years of public process on that. It's not something that I would throw a new planner who then has to live in the community afterwards into immediately, right? So yes, there is a possibility that we hire a contractor and then immediately hire a planner, and the planner might be ready to do that process in 3 or 4 months. But of course, we'll already have spent the money to have a contractor. The other option would be, again, to delay the start of the project, right? To take that list of meetings off the table until we have a planner, and that planner got their feet underneath of them and can start the process again. And those are the choices that we have to make. And that's what I'm looking for direction from the council for.
I mean, we're still under negotiations with the sale of the Ward Creek property. I still see even not having the planning part of it written down still could be beneficial of having some meetings, knowing that it's not getting replotted until we have a direct negotiations finalized with the purchaser. So to where if we do hire an engineering firm and anything had changed off of the land purchase, then we would be able to give somebody clear direction on what they were planning for to subdivide for us, which may be beneficial of saving us money moving forward with somebody doing this as a third party. I don't know if killing all the meetings right off of the bat, it may not help, but without getting engineers involved, they would love for us to come with them with no plan, and say, hey, come join
We're
nine.
not talking about engineering.
Yeah, well, a planner, my,
And again, my biggest concern right now is holding the meetings. Right now, the plan is to work towards a final concept design for the council to approve. Without a planner, I don't have anybody to manage that process of the concept design. We can hold public meetings and record them, but we're not working towards a goal other than to take public comment, right? And so there's the value of the public meetings goes down significantly if we don't have a planner to work through the concept drawing process to get something to the planning commission and ultimately to the council. And so again, if the council's interested in moving that process forward now, I think that we need to hire it out. If the council is okay with suspending that whole process for 6 to 8 months or 12 months, depending on how long it takes us to get a planner in place and trained, I'm okay with that too.
Move to appropriate up to $50,000 from the city general funds and direct staff to advertise a request for proposals for planning services related to the cannery property development.
Second.
all those in favor?
Should be a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Josh Bennett,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Liz River,
Yes.
Mike Cabbage,
Yes.
I feel the pressure of what Hannah was for like all those meetings.
It's a tough, it's not an easy decision, right? The public input is strong. We can move forward with the project and not slow it down.
It's, you
We
hear
just-
all everyone saying,
we
it's
just
been
can't do
18
that with our
years,
staff.
you know, that it's gonna be 19 years, and it's actually 20.
All right, move forward to RFP Civil Engineering Services.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, I'm happy to make a motion here, but just to clarify, I'm sure the intent of this is basically to start looking at the long-term, addressing our water system long-term.
That's part of it. That's part of the intent. Overall, this intent is to get a term contract with an A&E firm that can do work like, do studies or engineering work, whether it's on the planning process on the harbor or, the cannery property, or working on the water system or a harbor project somewhere. This simply gives us freedom to give jobs within a certain range to an A&E firm without having to compete each of them out separately, which will help with time and consistency on some of the bigger projects.
Basically, it's around retainer.
Yeah, it's a term contract for general A&E services, but the water system is probably one of the top intended uses of it.
Move to authorize the city administrator to solicit proposals from qualified engineering firms for a duration of 2 years with 1 optional extension, 1 year optional extension.
Second.
Any more further discussion on it? Roll call vote? No? No money on it, okay.
No money yet.
No money yet, perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Any more council comments? Any motions to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, staff.
This is not a valid venue option.
Of course it's not.
So we're not under, we're still in the meeting.
Yeah. Come on, sir. All I want to do is listen to music.
Mike, you said salmon? salmonstate.org?
Salmonstate.org, yeah. They have a pre-drafted form. You can add a few comments if you want, but
Pick out this chair, you can measure it and like it.
I tried to.
I tried
Between
to,
the two of us,
yeah.
between the two of us, we got it.
Yep.
No, I didn't. And I
Possibly the death
table it and
I know.
hold off on it, but I mean, if you guys have any suggestions,
Great.
I did it.
I'm just saying, like, I would make sure because the large handles on either side, like, make sure that it's like.
I won't leave you to it.
No, screw it, we do it. Let's see what I can do. No way.
Robert's rules.
I have it too. Yeah, my guy. She has a copy, and it's funny because
Okay. Because it's like the most charged. Yeah, and I've had it for a while.
I haven't seen it since yesterday, so I don't know. You know, it was broken, it was just a whole lot of, I put it upside down. I don't know, thank you guys.
Yeah, it's upside down.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'll just wrap it.
It's like an inch and a half in the back. It's just like, maybe it's on the
We're gonna flush down before it's.
There was a flange on the ground.
But it's small.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, the water line.
It's direct feed to the back.